Imagine for a second that you have this groundbreaking new idea, or like a brilliant product or a vital strategy that you need to pitch.
Right.
To get the word out, you spend thousands of dollars to rent a massive stadium-grade megaphone. You turn the volume all the way up, you take a deep breath, and you just scream your pitch at the top of your lungs.
Oh, boy.
But when you finally stop and look around, you realize you're standing in the middle of a completely deserted parking lot.
It's a devastating image, really. But honestly, it is exactly what an overwhelming majority of modern businesses or creators and even internal corporate leaders are doing every single day.
Yeah.
They operate under this assumption that the market is a chaotic, noisy place. Right? So the only logical response to them is to just manufacture more noise.
Right. I mean, the default setting always seems to be, if people aren't paying attention, I just need a flashier ad or a louder subject line or some aggressive call to action. But welcome to today's deep dive, where our mission is to completely dismantle that instinct. We are looking at a really brilliant guide from Stellipop. It's titled Bait with Brilliance, Capture Your Market Hook, Line, and Sinker.
Yeah, it's a great piece.
And this source uses a central fishing metaphor that kind of flips conventional wisdom entirely on its head. Okay, let's unpack this. Because if it's not the loudest call that wins, then today is all about throwing out those cheap marketing tricks and, really understanding what actually compels people to listen.
What the source does so well, I think, is shift the conversation away from just mere marketing tactics. It moves into a much deeper discussion about human psychology. It asks us to look at the modern consumer, or frankly, just anyone navigating the modern internet today. Over the last 2 decades, we've all developed this incredibly thick, almost impenetrable psychological armor.
Against aggressive sales tactics and noise, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We are hyper-discerning now. If you want to get through that armor, throwing a giant net of gimmicks into the water is counterproductive. It actually reinforces their armor.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense.
We have to understand why human beings respond to genuine, quiet value over aggressive volume.
Which brings us to the first major psychological hurdle the text identifies, right? The concept of what we are actually attaching to the end of our line.
The bait.
Right. The text paints this incredibly vivid picture of a frustrated angler sitting on a dock, casting a line tipped with what they call a garish plastic worm.
Right, the cheap bait.
Yeah. The book calls this kind of cheap bait stanky and gross. And the inevitable result is that you just sit there holding an empty line all day, wondering why the fish are totally ignoring you.
It's a powerful metaphor because we all encounter those garish plastic worms online every single day.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the manipulative clickbait headline that leaves you feeling, cheated when you finally read the article. Or it's that webinar that promises to reveal industry secrets, but it turns out to be a 90-minute high-pressure sales pitch.
The worst.
Right. The source makes a critical distinction here between clickbait and what it calls content bait.
Content date.
Yeah. Clickbait relies on a momentary psychological trick, like a shock or a fake urgency, some sort of manipulation to force a reaction. But content bait is rooted in authenticity.
Meaning it actually delivers.
Yes, it offers the audience actual, tangible value without demanding immediate capitulation.
And there is a specific concept in the source that completely changed how I view this exchange. It introduces this idea of tackle selection, but it redefines the bait itself.
How so?
Well, the bait isn't just a shiny object designed to distract a fish. It is fundamentally a promise of the value you're offering.
Oh, yes. That is the core mechanism of trust right there. When you put a piece of content out into the world, you are basically drafting an implicit contract with the person on the receiving end.
Right.
You are saying, if you give me 5 minutes of your highly guarded attention, I promise to leave you better informed or entertained or equipped than you were before.
And if they bite and they realize you've used a cheap plastic worm, if that promise was totally empty, you haven't just lost a single click or a sale.
You've actively broken their trust.
Exactly. You've proved to them that their armor was completely justified and they will likely never engage with your brand again.
Yep. A master angler chooses their tackle with immense intentionality to attract a very specific audience, knowing they must deliver on the promise of that tackle. But the bait is only the first half of the equation. The psychology of where you cast that line is just as important. And this is where the text lays down an absolute non-negotiable rule. You must never engage in cold casting.
Right, right. The source compares cold casting to fishing in a barren lake. You might cause a few ripples on the surface, but you are ultimately just wasting your energy.
Exactly.
They argue that you have to cast where the water is warm, meaning, you are casting among people you've already engaged with, where you've shown genuine interest and provided upfront value.
Yes.
But honestly, if we only ever cast in warm waters, aren't we just talking into an echo chamber? I mean, how does a brand new business or a new idea find a warm pond? Nobody just magically starts with an engaged audience waiting for them.
What's fascinating here is how the source implicitly defines the mechanics of warming the water in the first place. Yeah. You're completely right. Nobody starts with a warm pond.
Right.
But the critical insight is that you don't warm up a freezing lake by violently throwing hundreds of hooks into it and hoping something accidentally impales itself.
Right. That just scares whatever is down there.
Exactly. You change the temperature of the water through narrative.
By telling a better story.
By telling a story that centers the audience's needs, not your own desperation to make a sale.
Oh, I like that.
Warm connections are built through compelling brand stories and by providing an experience that resonates deeply with their specific pain points.
So you're building that relationship over time.
Yes. You are adding personal touches and delivering insights that make people feel seen and valued long before you ever ask them to take an action. That consistent effort, that genuine interest in their problems, is the true sparkling lure.
It gradually shifts the environment.
Exactly. You warm the pond by proving you are a reliable presence in it.
Okay, so we've developed our authentic content bait. We are making real promises of value. And we are slowly warming our pond through empathetic storytelling and upfront value.
Right.
But eventually, we do need the fish to bite. We have to convert attention into action. And the text highlights a massive psychological error that creators make at this exact stage. It calls it ambushing the school.
This is a phenomenal insight into consumer behavior. Imagine a school of fish casually swimming by. They aren't looking for a meal yet. They are just exploring the reef, getting a lay of the land.
Yeah.
If you suddenly drop a massive, heavy net directly on top of them, they're going to scatter in terror.
It's the equivalent of walking into a retail store just to browse. And the moment you step through the door, 5 salespeople sprint at you, lock the doors behind you, and demand your credit card.
You'd panic and try to escape.
Immediately.
Precisely. When consumers are in the information gathering phase, their guard is highly sensitive. They're looking for answers, not commitments.
Right.
If your website immediately hits them with a full-screen pop-up demanding their phone number, email, and job title before they can read a single paragraph, you are ambushing the school. You are inducing cognitive friction.
And the source says the antidote to this is ensuring our content is appealing and nourishing. It should pique their interest gently, kind of luring them deeper into a journey.
Gently being the key word.
Exactly. And the text is very rigid about the sequence here. Only after you have provided quality, relevant content that genuinely nourishes them can you successfully point them toward your actual products or services.
Yes, it leans heavily into the classic know, like, and trust factor.
Oh, yeah.
But it takes it a step further by explaining the underlying economics of that trust. Trust cannot be forced on a quarterly timeline.
Which corporate leaders hate to hear.
Oh, they despise it.
Yeah.
But it requires consistency and perhaps most painfully for driven professionals, a commitment to providing value without strings attached. You have to let them consume the content, evaluate your expertise, and make the decision to engage on their own terms.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because there is a massive tension in this philosophy. We are talking about business, right? Entrepreneurs, marketers, thought leaders, they are generally evaluated on results, on immediate conversions. Yet this source is explicitly telling us to strip the strings away and give out nourishing content for free. Isn't it fundamentally counterintuitive to essentially give away a massive, nourishing meal for free before you ever ask them to buy the restaurant?
This raises an important question about how you position your fundamental identity in the marketplace. Are you a desperate fisherman trying to extract a quick meal? Or are you an undeniable expert? The text warns very heavily against the trap of bottom fishing.
Which is the endless race to the bottom on pricing.
Exactly. Let's think about the mechanics of bottom fishing. If you refuse to build deep trust through nourishing free content, you have zero brand equity.
Right.
And when you have no brand equity, the only leverage you have left in the entire world to convince someone to buy from you is your price.
Because there's nothing else differentiating you.
You end up competing in a bleak, highly commoditized world where the only way to win is to be cheaper than the next guy. It is a miserable, unsustainable place to be.
So by giving away the nourishing meal for free, you aren't actually giving away the restaurant. You are simply proving to the market that your kitchen knows how to cook at a Michelin star level.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. You're providing a sample of your expertise.
And if they trust the kitchen, like if they've tasted the free appetizer and it was incredible, they will happily pay a premium for the full sit-down dining experience later.
Exactly.
They don't want the cheapest option anymore. They want your option because the trust is already established.
The mindset shift here is profound. You elevate yourself out of the discounting wars and into the expertise business.
Right, the expertise business.
The customer is no longer just a metric or a target to be ambushed. They become a partner who actively trusts you to deliver solutions. Giving away high-value content isn't a loss of revenue. It is the exact mechanism that justifies your premium positioning.
I love that. So if proving the kitchen can cook is the strategy, how do we actually execute this day to day?
That's the practical side of things.
Right. The source provides what we can think of as the master angler's toolkit, basically the specific tactics and boundaries required to maintain this delicate psychology. And the foundation of this entire toolkit is patience.
A lot of patience.
The text notes that the most skilled professional fishermen worldwide know that giving up too soon or rushing the process ruins the catch. You have to cast the line and then wait for the exact right moment.
Which is agonizing for anyone driven by metrics. But patience isn't about doing nothing. It's about active observation.
Okay.
The text offers highly specific guidance on how to spend that time. For instance, it insists that you must deeply know your fish. This doesn't mean guessing what they want based on your own biases. It means leveraging analytics, surveys, and deep social listening to understand the precise contours of their daily struggles.
And once you know those struggles, you tailor the lure. You design content that directly addresses their most pressing specific problem. It also notes that the lure needs to be visually appealing and easily digested. Because if the information is brilliant, but it's presented in a dense, tangled, chaotic way, it's like throwing a knotted ball of fishing line into the water. No fish is going to try to untangle that to get to the bait.
Right. The visual presentation is part of the cognitive ease. You want to remove all friction. And crucially, you don't just guess if your lure works. You test the waters.
A/B testing.
Yeah, we all know about A/B testing, running two versions of an ad or an email. But the text frames testing not just as a marketing 101 exercise, but as a vital psychological listening device.
Right. You aren't just testing button colors. You are testing value propositions.
Yes.
You are offering two different promises to the audience and silently listening to see which one actually reduces their anxiety or sparks their curiosity. You are letting their behavior dictate your strategy.
It's an incredibly humble way to operate. You're admitting that the audience knows what they need better than you do.
Now, here's a tactic from the source that caught my eye. It says you must keep your line tight.
Keep the line tight.
Yeah. The definition they provide is maintaining regular, consistent communication with your audience to increase engagement. Blogs, newsletters, social media updates. You don't want the line to go slack or they forget you exist.
Makes sense.
But just a few paragraphs later, the text delivers a stern warning. Do not overfish the same watering hole. It says that bombarding your audience with messages crosses the line into spam. Wait a minute. How do you balance keeping a line tight with regular ongoing communication while miraculously avoiding the trap of overfishing? I mean, where is the actual boundary between being consistently present and being deeply annoying?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of the bait as a promise concept, the boundary becomes incredibly clear. It comes down entirely to the nature of the communication.
The nature of it.
Yes. Keeping a line tight is about the consistent delivery of value. Overfishing is about the repetition of the ask.
Oh, the repetition of the ask. Unpack that for me.
Okay, let's say you send a weekly newsletter. If that newsletter consistently solves a problem, teaches a new framework, or even just deeply entertains your audience, you are keeping the line tight.
Because it's valuable.
Right. You're reinforcing the relationship. They actually anticipate that email. The cognitive friction is zero. But if you send an email every week that basically just says, hey, remember me? Buy my product. Here's a 10% discount. Buy my product. You are no longer delivering value.
You're just taking.
You are just extracting. You are overfishing. You've become the loud, desperate guy in the empty parking lot again.
That distinction is so vital. It's the difference between being a welcomed guest in their inbox versus an intruder.
Absolutely.
And speaking of keeping them around, there is one final warning from the source that highlights where the fishing metaphor actually inverses itself. In real physical fishing, catch and release is considered the ethical, noble thing to do.
Right, you put the fish back.
You catch the fish, take a picture, and put it back in the ecosystem. But in marketing, the text says catch and release is a catastrophic failure.
It truly is. If you have spent months warming the pond, proving your kitchen can cook, and delivering high-value content without strings attached, and they finally take the action to buy your product,
Right.
letting them swim away after that single transaction is absurd.
Because the hardest part, like building the trust, is already done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Catch and release in business means ignoring lifetime customer value. Once they are on the boat, you need to keep them engaged with related opportunities, advanced insights, and community.
Keep the relationship going.
You have to keep nourishing them even after the check clears.
So, what does this all mean? If we step back and look at the entirety of the Stellipop methodology, I honestly find it to be a massive relief.
How so?
Because the pressure to be the loudest person in the room, to constantly manufacture fake urgency, or to trick people with cheap clickbait, is utterly exhausting.
Oh, it is.
And according to the psychology we've explored today, it's also highly ineffective. The text promises that you can improve your outcomes exponentially simply by remembering that valuable, authentic content that over-delivers on its promises will always beat the garish plastic worm.
It is a much more sustainable way to operate. You are aligning your business practices with the way human beings actually want to be treated.
And for you listening right now, taking all of this in, I want you to see how universal this application is. It doesn't matter what your specific role is.
Right.
If you are prepping for a major presentation tomorrow, your slide deck shouldn't be a giant net full of gimmicks. It should be an appealing, nourishing narrative.
Yes.
If you are launching a side hustle, your outreach shouldn't be cold casting in barren lakes. Whatever ideas you are trying to push into the world, remember that your audience is smart, their armor is thick.
Very thick.
They can absolutely smell a cheap plastic worm from a mile away. Treat them as intellectual equals, respect their journey, prove that your kitchen can cook before you ever hand them the bill.
You know, the source leaves us with a truly fascinating idea at the very end of the text. It argues that mastering this art of brilliant bait leads to much more than just hooking a few isolated customers. Yeah. When you consistently deliver overwhelming value, you build a real following. An audience that is literally waiting with anticipation for whatever you decide to offer next.
That's the dream.
But as I was reading that, it made me realize something about this whole framework. If marketing is like fishing, and you have perfectly mastered this art of trust, at what point does the metaphor actually break down entirely?
Break down? How do you mean?
Well, think about the natural conclusion of undeniable trust. What happens when the fish in your boat start eagerly swimming out to tell all the other fish to jump into your boat?
Oh, wow.
In the real world, a deeply trusted customer doesn't just stay a customer. They become a brand advocate. They become an evangelist. Effectively, your fish become the fishermen themselves.
They do the casting for you.
They start casting lines on your behalf because the value you provide is just that undeniable. That is a level of momentum and network effect that no single angler could ever achieve on their own.
The fish becoming the fisherman. That is an incredibly powerful image to leave on, and honestly, the ultimate goal of truly brilliant bait. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration today. Keep thinking critically about the promises you make, keep casting those warm, valuable lines, and keep diving deep. We will catch you next time.